sunset. The pictures are pretty, but just like just about anything else, they don't do justice unless you're a person. Very nice. I don't know if it's going to rain, but it's real windy, so I'll probably put up the tent. This will only be about this will be the third time I put up the tent. And I'm probably going to get practice the next few nights because it's going to be raining off and on. So anyway, Monument Valley from the visitor center, and I'll show you from my campsite in a second. Oh, how the weather changes. I might get caught in some of that today. We'll find out. So the guy said to follow a horse trail. That's definitely what I'm doing. Kind of fun. Going between these here. And now the horse trail turns into a little underused Jeep trail. We're making progress. Shortcut turned out to be a shortcut and pretty. The road's way out there beyond that little trailer there. Right underneath that butte. Looking back to where I came from, somewhere out there I crossed the Arizona-Utah border. So now I'm officially in Utah. I didn't pay attention to where that was. It would have been kind of interesting just to draw a line in the sand for posterity's sake. Welcome to Utah. That seems a far way off, but eventually I'm going that way. I'll be done with that in no time, right? Now to move on before the rain gets me. We're in southern Utah, by the way, walking along Highway 163, eastbound, and on the way to the campground, and then Mexican Hat, and then through Bluff and Montezuma Creek, where I've got a resupply box waiting for me at the post office, and then from there some highway in Colorado, then up Mancos River Canyon, Johnson Canyon, and then I'll stay. My plan right now is to, there's an Airbnb place in Klein, Colorado. So if I can make it from the Mancos River, where I'll camp, into Klein, that's about 20 miles, I'll stay at that place, and then into Durango the next day. All right, making some progress. Well, I'm going down there somewhere, but maybe I can make a shortcut. Yeah, right. Somewhere down there. I think just follow that little road and it's on top of the mesa, I think. Yeah, this spot's got a pretty nice view. Let's go in and take a look and see what we get. Pick your own spot. We'll come by later. 20 bucks. Okay, so here's where I'm camping right there, right? It's called Sleeping Bear Campground. A guy named Herbie runs it. This land was his grandparents, and they eventually passed it down to him. Interesting thing is, this is where his grandparents actually used to live way back in the day. Not much left anymore, but you can see what it was like, sort of. So they used to herd sheep over here, and the story goes that back in the Depression, and also back when they had the dust storms in the Great Plains, all the people from there were moving along west, and they came through this area, San Juan River area, and they stayed here for a bit, helped herd some sheep, and then the grandparents sent those people along to the next place. So interesting history here, and this guy is just running a little business. He's got about I think 8 spots here, and his sign, you saw it earlier, says just go pick your own spot and I'll come by later. So he just charges $20 and gives a place for people to stay. It's primitive, no water, no facilities except for the outhouse over there. So Sleeping Bear Campground. It's off Highway 163 on the way in between Monument Valley and Mexican Hat. Good morning. It's 6 something. And the weather has really changed. So let me show you here. That butte is all covered in clouds. It's pretty cold. It's breezy. It's not windy like it was yesterday afternoon and evening. So I think I will quickly break camp. Maybe I'll leave on the poncho and hope for no rain. Oh boy, 16 miles to Mexican Hat today. Now looky here. Got some stray dogs who've been following me almost the past 2 miles. I wonder if they're looking to find a better life in Mexican Hat. You looking to find a better life in Mexican Hat? Maybe somebody will adopt you there instead of out here in the middle of nowhere. Just be better careful though. Being out here in the road, you don't want to get squished, run over. Okay, well, if that's where you want to go, let's go. On a Mexican Hat and a better life. Oof, oof. So these 3 are still following me, or leading the way, should I say, right now. Almost reminds me of the movie Incredible Journey. Remember that movie? Or if you've never seen it, it was a nice little movie from was it the 70s, early 70s maybe? 2 dogs and a cat get separated from their owners. I don't know if they were on vacation or they moved and the owners thought they were in the car or whatever. And they made this incredible journey back to their owners. That's what this kind of feels like right now. Here's what's ahead to Mexican Hat, but take a look at this. Look at these buttes and mesas, pretty neat. So we're looking, what are we looking here? We're looking northwesterly, sort of. Off in the distance is going to be Lake Powell. And then southwesterly here, looking back to where I came from. And then this isn't Monument Valley per se, just more buttes and mesas on the Navajo reservation. And that's looking east, no, it's looking northeasterly, I think. No, this is northeast. I don't know, I'm all turned around. But yeah, this is easterly over this way here. So yeah, pretty country, even with the clouds. And I still have my merry band of adventurers with me. Well, coming down that hill was a little bit easier than coming up. I'm at a little roadside stand, and look at this. Still got my little band of merry followers with me. They tried to mooch food off people over here, but they didn't get any, so I guess they're gonna stick around with me. Just met a nice couple ladies here from the UK, and so I guess onwards up to Mexican Hat. Got about another 8 or 9 miles, but that's pretty view, isn't it? Let me see if I can zoom in here a little bit here. Yeah, it's nice and pretty even with the clouds. Well, I don't know if I don't know if I should feel sad or I lost my traveling companions down there. Big tour bus stopped and a bunch of other cars, and they were, I guess, trying to mooch off people. How quickly they forget you, huh? I was trying to take them to a better life in Mexican Hat. Oh well. Let's go all by ourselves. Boo-hoo. Now that I'm cresting the hill from this and transitioning to a different type of topography over to Mexican Hat, I'll show you here in a second. And after losing my friends there too, it's kind of here we go, a different feeling. Guess it's a different journey now. I think it's maybe the best way I can describe it geographically, I suppose, is getting ready to leave the west. Yeah, I still have the Rockies to go, but that's a different kind of west that I've been experiencing so far. Basically desert and high plateaus and mesas and things like that. The Grand Canyon, of course. And I guess kind of fitting too that the weather has changed like this as well. Cold wind, drizzling rain yesterday, today. 20 inches of snow in the Rockies last night. And from what I hear, back there at the bus driver, Durango's scheduled for rain almost like the next 10 days out, 10 days coming. So interesting transition. I'm gonna have to process this. Well, this is quite interesting. I've come up and over the pass here, coming down now into Mexican Hat, and there's a significant, well, I shouldn't say significant, but there's a noticeable change in the temperature. And I'll also note too that the wind has died down quite a bit and it shifted. It was blowing from the southeast, and now it's more of a northeast wind. Not so much a wind though, but a breeze. So it's I'd say the weather has changed from really cold for me to now just kind of mildly cold. And I wonder if that's going to hold out for me as I continue along up to Durango. No rain, please, no rain. I mean, rain is, yeah, okay, it's bad enough, but Freezing cold rain is miserable. As you can see, I'm not outside, I'm not in a tent. I'm at the Hat Rock Inn in Mexican Hat, where I was going to stay. It was a planned stop for overnight. And I remember I also told you a little bit earlier that it's a race between me and the rain. Well, the rain won by an hour. And it was a downpour. There's most of the stuff getting dried with the heat turned up to 86. I was going to stay here, and I still may just go stay here one night, but the weather's still pretty unsettled. And then the next day after that looks like it's clearing up, so I might stay here one more night. We'll see. Get everything dried up. But at least, you know, my pack stayed dry because I have that. I put the, let me show you here. I put the contractor bag, the contractor trash bag, inside the backpack. And because the backpack isn't waterproof. And then that kept everything dry. But the clothes I had on, I got soaking wet. I didn't have time to put on my rain stuff. It just started coming down, so I figured I might as well just walk in the rain for the next hour, 45 minutes to an hour, and it wasn't too terribly cold. I did stop under a tree for about 5 minutes to try and wait it out, but then I was getting cold then, so I just hoofed it on over here, and yeah, so there you have it. Not a bad little place. Stayed at after to dry off from last night. Hat Rock Inn, Mexican Hat. That's the San Juan River. It's time for a geography lesson, and it's something I just learned. So this is the San Juan River, flowing from that way down to this way. San Juan River winds and twists and goes that way. It's going southwest, and it eventually flows out into Lake Powell and the Colorado River. All right, so this is interesting though. The San Juan River, up that way, way up that way, the Los Pinos, or the Pine River, actually flows into the San Juan River. And what's special about that? Well, I'll be following the Pine River, going up into the Rockies outside of Durango and Vallecito. So, pretty interesting, something I learned. And also the San Juan River, it starts up there at the Continental Divide, just south of South Fork, north of Pacosa Springs. And so I thought that was neat. Leaving Mexican Hat, the weather's really changed. It's actually pretty warm. It's almost 80 right now in the morning. But I wanted to show you why they call it Mexican Hat. There it is, a little hat on top of the rock there. But also, look at the red dirt. And the greens contrasted with that. It's a pretty place. So take a look at this. Totally different feel from the other day, isn't it? Out there is Monument Valley, from where I came from. And then panning out this way to the east, there's Mexican Hat again. And then look at all this. San Juan River is down there behind between those two bluffs. And then speaking of bluff, that's the way I'm going. This way here. Actually it turns around, turns that way. And I'll just be going halfway roughly and camping off the side of the road tonight. Into a campground in Bluff the next day, and then Montezuma Creek and a resupply box at the post office the next day after that. There's something different about this stretch of the journey now, and this part of the highway. I don't think the camera really captures it. It's the ultimate silence, and of course it's the vastness and bigness of the whole area. Interesting. If I really needed it, water, water, water. I think this is where I'd be able to find it. Dig down a few inches and there it would be, I think. I think there's even a little standing there in the mud right there too. This will be an okay place to camp, I think, but I still have to go a couple more miles. These have a different pitch than the ones in Arizona. Going around each bend brings something new to look at. What do you think? Looking out there to the great expanse, looking at nothing in particular, but looking at everything. Watching the clouds drift by, listening to and feeling the soft breeze, the wide open country. Peaceful. Think you can make this a home if you had to? Something very special about it. Oh, the problems we have in life, huh? I'm trying to scope out a place to camp here alongside the road tonight and to be somewhat obscured. But along this section of road, there's not really any concealment, and I'm on this plain or plateau, and so everything alongside the road is level with the road. And there's just these little scrub bushes that doesn't really conceal me. And I'm trying to get over here to the other side of the fence. This is BLM land, and there's a little hill up there where I can actually camp. But evidently the state of Utah puts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 strands of barbed wire alongside their roads instead of 4 like in Arizona. So it makes it a little bit harder to find a place to crawl under. I'm trying to find a little place that's got a little runoff that makes it easier. And maybe this is the spot, I don't know. But then the 5 strands makes it harder to get the pack up and over without cutting it up. Oh, the problems we face in life. I'll give you an update in a second. Aha! Looks like somebody else faced the same problem. And they found themselves a solution, albeit I wouldn't have done that. They fiddled with the wire. So I crawled through there. I placed my pack up over there. And now I'm going up here for the night. Hopefully tomorrow's not the morning they just decide to come by and fix it before I leave. Alright, so let me show you this room with the view that I have tonight. I'll point out everything is about 50 miles. That was within about 40 or 50 miles. First off, where I'm going tomorrow is Bluff, which is down and around and then up that way. It's about 10 or 11 miles. I'll get an early start because the weather's really changed. I think it's supposed to be 85, 87 tomorrow, so I'll try and get up early and get there before the heat of the day. Anyway, here we go. So, within 40 to 50 miles, not those mountains, but Canyonlands in Utah will be out that way. And then Glen Canyon and Lake Powell will be out that way. All right, then looking back to Monument Valley and Kayenta over there, and swinging back around, that's all just Navajo land out there. And then Four Corners will be roughly that way, about 40 miles. And Mesa Verde will be out there about 50 miles. And then circling back around here, Bluff about 10 miles, and Montezuma Creek 17 miles after that. Then the Utah-Colorado state border. All right, nice view tonight. Howdy. That turned out to be a nice little spot right back there. It was a little rise, set off back from the road, maybe about a couple hundred yards. Little hill up on top. Could see all the sights around, and the moon in your face. Uh-oh, that sounds like a song.
Don't let the stars get in your eyes, don't let the moon break your heart. Love blooms at night, in daylight it dies. Don't let the stars get in your eyes, or keep your heart from me, for someday I'll return and you know you're the only one I'll ever love.
So I'm passing through a little place called Bluff, Utah. It's, a sleepy little place, but it's kind of pretty. But there's this historical site here called Fort Bluff, and it's actually a pretty good size, but this section here I wanted to show you. It's the it's kind of a reenactment of the first settlement when the settlers came through here in their wagons, and they built all their cabins here in a circle and then surrounded it by a fence because they didn't know what to expect from the Navajo and the Ute Indians from around here. Well, after just a year, I think, they finally realized there was nothing to be afraid of, and they started trading and everything with the Indians. But this section here, it's really interesting to see how they just like if you circled the wagons, as you've probably seen in some Western movies, they circled all their little cabins and lived in this little encampment. In fact, let's go look at one of the cabins right here. They're all decorated or arranged a little bit differently from each other, and it's probably not exactly the way they had theirs, but you can see they were just small cabins. Maybe it was maybe a 10 by 10 cabin. And let's go take a look at one more here. See if we've got one with a bed. The interesting thing that I've noticed is how small the beds are. Here's one. So I guess this would be a full-size bed in its day. And just little one-room cabins. Everybody stayed in them, cooked in the fireplace there. A couple of people had a little pot-belly stove. And then eventually the community grew and everybody got a home site and dug wells and tried to get water from the San Juan River. They built a co-op over there, and I guess it was a store and a co-op and a bank and a combination of everything. Interesting story about that building. That's a rebuild. That's the co-op out there. But there was a guy named, I think it was Fred Starr, was that his name? He tried to blow up the safe so that he'd get the money and get out of town. Well, old Fred Starr, he used a little bit too much dynamite. And not only did he blow up the safe, he blew up the co-op, and he blew up himself as well. So if you're planning on a life of crime, crime does not pay. Fort Bluff. If you ever get a chance to get out here, come out here and take a look at it. It's really nice. And all the people are nice too. Very nice, very informative, very helpful. In fact, this whole section of southern Utah has been very nice. I'd recommend it. It's really expansive views and all that. So southern Utah, come on out. Camp. Stay in little motels. Fort Bluff and Bluff, Utah. One other thing I wanted to mention about Fort Bluff here. This is one of the original wagons that they used in the wagon train when they came here in 1880. They originally came from around Escalante up north in Utah, and just came down through buttes and mesas and valleys and all that sort of stuff. A lot of people today would call it Badlands. And they at one point they had to get to through a place called Hole in the Rock, which was down at the Colorado River, and they had to actually blast their way through this little narrow canyon to get their wagons through. The whole trip turned out to be 6 months. And they thought it was actually only going to be a 6-week trip, so that's how arduous it was. It really tells you something about how hard it was in those days and the perseverance that they had in getting a goal accomplished. And the other interesting thing and nice thing about that too is everybody that started the trip made it. Oh, now another tip for you in Bluff. You got to make sure you go here. Twin Rocks Cafe. So I was going out to pay. I guess it's the owner. Must be the owner. The staff was telling him what I'm doing. He said, I'm buying your lunch. So when you come to Bluff, go to the Twin Rocks Cafe. It's actually pretty good too. Thanks.
You're the only one.